There once was a man named Abram who was a descendant of Noah. God told him to move with his wife Sarai and entire family away from where they lived. God made a promise, "I will make you into a great nation and bless you, and all of the people on earth will be blessed through you." So Abram and his family left. At one point they stopped and God told him to look around. "All the land that you see, I will give to you and your children." Then one night God took Abram outside. "Look up and count the stars. This is the number of children you will have." But Abram was already 75 years old, and Sarai was way too old to have children. So they decided that Sarai's servant Hagar should have Abram's child. Hagar became pregnant and gave birth to a son named Ishmael. Yet God told Abram again, "You will be the father of many nations." God changed their names to Abraham and Sarah and promised that it would be through Sarah that God's blessing would come. Exactly as God promised, Sarah became pregnant, giving birth to a son named Isaac. When Isaac was still a young boy, God told Abraham to take his son up on a mountain and sacrifice him. Abraham took Isaac, laid him on an altar, and took out the knife to kill him. But an angel stopped Abraham, and God provided a ram to sacrifice in place of Isaac. Years later, Abraham and Sarah died and left everything they owned to Isaac. Isaac married and had twin sons, Jacob and Esau. Esau was Isaac's favorite, and as the oldest, he was set to gain his father's inheritance. But Jacob wanted the inheritance, so he came up with a scheme to trick his father, who was now old and blind, into promising it to him. He dressed in Esau's clothes and put animal skin on his hands, because Esau's hands were very hairy. Confused, Isaac gave his blessing to Jacob and promised him the inheritance instead of Esau. This caused a huge fight, one that almost ended in murder before they went their own ways. Thankfully, they reunited, and God promised to bless Jacob's family. Jacob had 12 sons of his own, and like his father and grandfather before him, Jacob had a favorite son. Little did Jacob know that his favoritism would put his son Joseph in danger of being killed by his own brothers.
Today we continue with the second chapter of the story where God builds a great nation through Abraham's faith. What an amazing story. My favorite section from what you just read comes from page 13. The Lord says to Abram, "Go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you." And then it says, so Abram went just as the Lord told him. Now, two things stand out for me in that text. One was his age, and the second one was his actions. First of all, we know that he was 75 years old when these commands came down from God. Most people are in their twilight years right there, but he's taking off on a brand new adventure to follow God. Secondly, I noticed his actions. He left everyone he knew, he brought everything he had to go to a place he'd never been. That is faith. So as you begin your discussion today, let's start right there. Talk about a trip that you've taken recently as a family. Where did you go? How did you prepare? Or maybe answer this question: what is the most intense journey or trip that you've ever been on? And what made it adventurous? I wonder if Abraham knew what he was getting into. I wonder if he knew what kind of a journey that he was starting. You see, a life following God is a tremendous adventure. It's filled with ups and downs, twists and turns, peaks, valleys. In fact, for those of us that are Christians in the room, I wonder how many of us thought it would be easy. I mean, just look at Abraham's life. This weekend, we looked at 6 steps of Abraham's faith journey. First of all, we looked at the dream, where God gives Abraham this idea of the promised land. Secondly, there was a decision where Abraham decided to act on his faith, and he stepped out, he took a risk, he trusted God, and he obeyed. Third came delays. Maybe those are times in life when God says to wait, or you're not seeing results, or maybe you get stuck in some type of a holding pattern. Fourth, we learned about difficulties, times of conflict, or when you encounter obstacles, periods in your life where you hit setbacks. And then, of course, there's dead ends. Maybe times that seem like there's no way out, periods of hopelessness and helplessness. But finally comes deliverance, times when you experience God's power in an awesome way. And so let's ask a question after looking at that list. Where are you at in your faith story? Have everyone go around and share and talk about a time that you've been at one of these phases in your faith journey. In a lot of ways, Abraham's story, or our faith journey, reminds me of an extreme event called the Badwater Ultramarathon. This is the most intense race in the world. Even Navy SEALs have been defeated by this course. In fact, most participants don't enter to win the race, they just hope to finish it. Runners and their crews have to battle adverse conditions. First of all, there's the temperature. The race goes from Death Valley and it ends at Mount Whitney, California. The temperature range is anywhere from 150 degrees at its hottest to 20 degrees at its coolest. Next, they have to battle the elevation. It has the most elevation changes of any race in North America, anywhere from 230 feet below sea level to 14,000 feet above sea level. And then finally, they've also got to battle the distance. This race covers 135 miles. Runners are going to average between 30 to 50 miles a day. In fact, they're going to have to take in more than 30 gallons of fluid just to finish this race. Sound easy? What's the point? The point is that following God takes commitment. It doesn't end when you become a baptized believer. It's not a sprint. It's a lifelong pursuit of becoming more like Jesus. There's going to be moments of victory and elation, and then there's going to be times where you probably ask, what did I get myself into? That's why I admire Abraham, because no matter what happened in his story, his faith never wavered, not even when he encountered difficulties. Now, I know we breezed through the list earlier, but let's spend some time on this category specifically. Occasionally, you encounter a rough road, something that totally saps your strength, something that causes you to lose your will to race. Maybe it's something in the form of a tragedy, like the loss of a loved one. Maybe it's just tension in your family, or maybe it's something that you're dealing with financially, like a mounting debt or something. Maybe it's the loss of a job, or even something that you're battling with spiritually. What I want you to do is take a minute and read in the story from the middle of page 19 through page 20. And I want you to answer this. What has been the single biggest challenge to your faith, and how has your faith helped you through life's greatest adventures? Do you know what's usually the #1 nemesis of the runners at Badwater? It's not the contrast in temperature, it's not the change in elevation, it's not even due to their gear malfunctioning. Funny enough, it's blisters. The surface temperatures in that race measure 190 degrees Fahrenheit. At that temperature, shoes melt. Your feet will instantly blister. Their feet simply can't finish the race. To combat this, participants discovered that by running the white line, it makes a difference. It's noticeably cooler. It prevents the soles of their shoes from melting on the blacktop. And not only that, but when the runners would get distracted or maybe sometimes become delirious with fatigue, running the white line keeps them on course. What's the translation? The translation is that when you walk by faith, you will fight on. You will reach the summit. You will finish the race. But you know what's even better than rising to this challenge and reaching the summit and crossing that finish line by yourself? It's being able to celebrate with someone else at the end. Someone else that you have helped them cross that same finish line. And so as you get ready to wrap up your group tonight, I want to leave you with this challenge. You know, a lot of us in here, we've got some incredible faith stories. In fact, you probably didn't get to this point in your faith journey alone. Probably someone else was in your support crew. Someone else invited you. In fact, someone else is probably responsible with you sitting in and even participating in this discussion. And so I want you to share that story. Who helped you on your faith journey? Who was instrumental in helping you find Jesus Christ and follow Him? And then I want to leave you with this. Who, when asked that same question, would mention your name?